Anthony, te damos la bienvenida a nuestro programa de Living on Broadway, de Sonidos de Broadway, la página sobre musicales más importante de toda Latinoamérica. Mi nombre es Gaston Brian, voy a hablar en español y tú tienes las preguntas en inglés. Juan Martín Delgado será nuestro intérprete. Y tu nombre está ligado a las producciones y a las figuras más importantes de la historia de Broadway de todos los tiempos. Harold Prince, Cameron Mackintosh, Chita Rivera, Andrew Lloyd Webber. Entre todos tus trabajos hay dos roles que te relacionan directamente con Latinoamérica. Che en Evita, Valentin en El beso de la mujer araña. Vamos a indagar un poco sobre eso. Tu primer rol fue el Che en Evita, con muy buenos logros. ¿Qué recuerdos tienes de aquella producción y por qué crees que hubo tanta fascinación allí y en el mundo por Eva Perón, la primera dama de Argentina? Juan.
So Gaston says that we welcome you to our program Living on Broadway of Samsung Broadway, the most important page in musicals in Latin America. And your name is related to the most important stars and production in the history of Broadway, like Harold Prince, Cameron Mackintosh, Chita Rivera. But there are two roles that connect you to Latin America, Che in Evita and Valentin in The Kiss of the Spider-Woman. We're going to investigate a little bit about that. So how important was the role Che in Evita for you? What memories do you have of that production? And why do you think that there was so much fascination about it and in the world of Eva Perón?
Well, let me start by doing this.
Oh, cool.
Che in Evita.
Wow.
Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Che in Evita. Che and Perón in Evita. If you look behind me, that was the, and also my house is filled with memorabilia from the productions. That production of Evita was the beginning of my relationship with Hal Prince. And so because of that initial production, it opened up many doors for me. At the time when I met him, I was 21 years old. And I started the production first on the road in Chicago. And we went on tour briefly. And at the time, then a little while had passed, about a year. And they were replacing on Broadway Mandy Patinkin and also Patti LuPone. And Hal decided, he came, asked me if I wanted to come to Broadway. So the first production that I did on Broadway was Che in Evita. And those photos that I just showed you were from the marquee outside of the Broadway Theater in New York. And I was allowed to save them as souvenirs. That particular role, the fascination with Eva Perón and the Peronists was tremendous because she was an iconic, controversial figure because of her politics, because on both sides of her politics, some people adored her, but other people thought that she was a menace to the people of Buenos Aires and Argentina. And the same thing with the politics of the Peronist regime at the time. So the controversy and the storyline of her and her life rising from being, as they said, descamisados, from one of the poorer people to the stature that she had gained was a tremendous story to see. And then ultimately too, even when they took the Rainbow Tour throughout the world as well, going to Europe, and her feeling that she was disrespected at times. She served as such an icon for all of Buenos Aires and for all of Argentina. And so the storyline, even up until her death, her unfortunate death from cancer, was a fascinating story. And she's regardless of her politics, she's a fascinating figure to watch, as is Juan Perón. Now you insert into that the character of Che Guevara. Guevara, when in actuality, I believe historically, they only crossed paths one time. And this was at a rally that she was holding when he was a young man, a medical student. And obviously, we know the history of Che Guevara from there, with the revolution throughout South America, and then into Cuba, and then also then back into South America, and leading to his death. But he becomes this seminal figure. In the recent productions of Evita that have been done, the director Hal Prince, when he did the initial production, if you look at that musical is made up of musical segments. It doesn't have a clean through line, storyline, and that you have all these vignettes of the story. It was Hal Prince and the designer's genius that put together that story, sort of item by item by item, and carried you through. And in that original production, I know they did recent productions even on Broadway, and that the orchestrations have been changed. I think that original concept, with the choreography by Larry Fuller, with the military men dressed in their costumes and the aristocrats moving, the way it was staged, the concepts, people coming out, and I've sent you like some photographs from the productions I've done, at the end of the first act, coming on stage with the torches, with the political banners coming down, or even the opening with the images of Evita when she was an actress, a young actress, and the stage pulling up. They had the curtain that pulled up with lights that went down that would cascade against the people's faces. The concepts of the way the show was done made it a wonderful, brilliant presentation. And to be part of that, obviously, it was a tremendous honor. And then from there, it was 10 years later that I was suggested to Hal to play Valentin in Kiss of the Spider Woman. And because I had a relationship with him already, Valentin and the production of Kiss had a previous production that was done at a university in New York City, SUNY Purchase. But when that production was done, they staged it and they used the music of Cantor and Ebb, of Fred Ebb and John Cantor. The book was by Terrence McNally, and the concept, the original concepts, obviously with choreography and also the direction by Hal Prince. What happened was, when they did it in a university setting, it was supposed to be like a laboratory to work on the production. But ultimately what happened was, as they staged it, they had spent the budget that they had put together to present it in that laboratory production. So the critics, the theater critics said, what had happened was, when they had spent the budget, they were charging admission to come and see the show. Once you charge admission, then the critics feel they have the right to come and see the show. And so they came and they wrote terrible reviews. But it was seen by a producer, Garth Drabinsky. And Garth Drabinsky said, I want to continue this, but I want to recast the show. Let's talk about recreating the book, and rewriting the book that was obviously based on Manuel Puig's original novel. Let's rewrite it and then go from there. Once they had started that production and they went into workshop, then I came in, and that was the first time that I worked with Chita Rivera. And initially, when we had done the production, the actor Richard Thomas was scheduled to play Molina. And we had rehearsed and done a few presentations of the workshops. Then they were going to go and start in Toronto to begin with. They had cast Brent Carver to be the afternoon matinee Molina, and Richard Thomas was going to do 6 performances. Brent was going to do 2. But Richard had a personal crisis, a family crisis, and he had to drop out. So they decided that instead of trying to recast with only a month and a half left going into Toronto, that we would go forward with Brent. So it would be Brent, Chita, and myself. We went to Toronto. We had great success. The chemistry was wonderful. The concept, the way it was put together was wonderful. They felt like they had something that was the seeds of what could be a wonderful production that could ultimately go to Broadway. And so we were going to be in Toronto for 6 months. And they said, you know what, instead of recasting, let's stick with this combination. So the combination of the three then went from Toronto to London for 6 months and then to Broadway. That's the history of that as well. I mean, it's the abbreviated version of the history of the show. And then it was, you know, we were fortunate. We came in just under the wire for the Tony Awards. And we qualified for 11 awards, Tony Awards, and the show won 7 awards. And Brent, Cheetah, and myself, we all won the Tony Award for performance. Yeah. And then 11 years later comes, again with Hal Prince, Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera in a brand new version that was going to be in Las Vegas. The Las Vegas production was the original budget for Phantom when it was done on Broadway was roughly about $12 million.
Wow.
If you translate that to you know, the current prices of what's going on today with inflation, that would be roughly about $16 million. The production in Las Vegas was $40 million inside a specially built $40 million theater. So you say, well, how, if you're doing Phantom, and how does it go from 16 million to 40 million? Well, in the production in Las Vegas, when they would do the reveal at the top of the show, the reveal would be a dust cloth that would be covered over the chandelier. The chandelier was in one piece. And it was also, the proscenium was covered with dust cloths. When they did the reveal would be of the chandelier and the proscenium and all that filigree work that was on the front of the stage. In Las Vegas, half of the theater was covered in dust cloths. We walked into the theater and 3 pieces of the chandelier were suspended overhead above the audience. And 1 piece was on the stage. When the overture started, bam, 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 the chandeliers, the dust cloths would reveal half the theater. And you were thrust into a theater that was designed like the Paris Opera House, a replica of that. And in the opera boxes, there were 80 mannequins dressed in period costume. So you were thrust back into the period because they were watching all the action. And the audience became part of what was the audience in the Paris Opera House in the late 1800s. In addition to that, the chandeliers, the pieces would spin and assemble before your eyes and go straight up. In the original production and every other tour, when the chandelier crashes, the chandelier goes on an arc and stops on the stage at a top speed of 12 miles per hour. In Las Vegas, when the chandelier would crash, it wouldn't go on an arc. It would come straight down over the audience. And you would hear people gasp when the crash would happen, because the other thing that would happen was in the theater, you would feel a breeze when the chandelier came down. And the reason you felt the breeze, 35 miles an hour inside the building. So like the speed of a car, of an automobile. And again, 2,000 pounds coming straight down over the top of the audience, and they feel this breeze. Of course, they're going to scream, you know. In addition to that, it was the first time that Phantom used stuntmen. So we would use stuntmen actors for different portions of the show. Of when, for instance, we can't do it because I would be in 2 places. The Phantom would descend from the center of the chandelier and sing. I would sing a line, and they had a stuntman descending, and I was singing backstage. And then the stuntman would go back up, and then I would appear somewhere else. So we used stuntmen, and one of the first times they used pyrotechnics, fireworks inside the theater. So this was another all brand new concepts of the way that they were going to do this production, and thus $40 million when you do it that way, done without intermission. And some people complained that it was there was pieces that were cut. What they did was they eliminated one major scene, which was when the Phantom delivered the script of Don Juan Triumphant to the opera company, they would go into a rehearsal. The company would go into a rehearsal, and then they would sing, the opera managers would sing ludicrous, this is ludicrous. And then off to one side, a organ, piano would start to play by itself. That scene was cut. What they did was, Phantom delivers the manuscript, the curtains would close, the opera managers would step forward and sing ludicrous, this is ludicrous. And we would go and we went, instead of singing the opera and then repeating the opera, the curtain would open and we would open on a facade, which was no other company had this. It was a front facade of the Paris Opera House, and the Paris Opera House, and with fireworks going off. Then that facade would disappear and we go right into the opera. And what they did also to make it move quicker, all of the tempos were slightly accelerated, just ever so slightly, so that we moved quicker through it. I know I'm talking, you know, no. I talk and like connecting and without giving a break, but it's all connective tissue. And for me, from my career, it's all of that connective tissue is because of one man, Hal Prince.
Of course. Hal Prince.
I mean, and Mr. Prince, Hal was a dear friend too. And we lost him, you know, at the tail end of last year, which was terrible, because the mark that he has made on theater, you know, not only London, Broadway in London, but around the world is tremendous. I mean,
a legend.
It's just, yeah. I mean, and again,
yeah.
I mean, will anybody ever replicate his history and what he accomplished in theater? I seriously doubt it.
Anthony, fuiste parte del elenco original de Los Miserables en Broadway, como Grantaire. Los Miserables es mi musical favorito. Me encanta Grantaire. Cuando ustedes ensayaban, ¿eran conscientes del fenómeno de lo que sucedió después, que se convirtió en una de las obras más importantes de la historia de Londres y de Broadway? Martín.
Well, so what he says,
go ahead.
If you were aware of what Les Mis will become after that, when you were rehearsing.
When we were in rehearsal, which was at 890 Studios on Broadway, big rehearsal hall, I was with two other actors from the show, Jordan Leeds and Michael McGuire, who were in the original production. And we went to lunch. And Jordan did not have quite as much experience. And we were talking, and he said, you know, well, what is it? You know, geez, I mean, I'm so great. And I said to him, for all of us, you have no idea what we are involved with, because I said, the directors, Trevor Nunn, John Caird, had directed Nicholas Nickleby in London for the Royal Shakespeare Company, and then on Broadway. And because of the magnitude of Les Miserables, I said, it's literally like we are doing, this is the musical version of Nicholas Nickleby. That kind of history, span of history, that kind of span of so many characters with each different storyline that keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. It's a tremendous piece of theater. And, you know, and really, you know, the what was obviously based on the Victor Hugo novel, what was accomplished by the writers, Claude Michel Schoenberg and Alain Boubou and Herbert Kretzmer, you know, doing translations as well. And even the original, the designs, the designs of the set, the turntable, the barricades. I mean, at that period of time, that was all technology that was emerging and was wonderful. And this whole notion that they put together, specifically Trevor saying that he wanted the feel of the piece to be cinematic, that you would go from scene to scene to scene, and the turntable would allow actors to travel and move and go, and that we would just almost seamlessly continue along this journey. And they all, the wonderful thing that happened was, because the show had been done in an arena in Paris, I believe, or it was in France. And that's where Cameron McIntosh, the producer, had seen it. And he went to Trevor Nunn and said, I want you to listen to a tape, and I want you of this show. And it was there is a version, you can actually hear the original version sung in French of Les Miserables, not what the production was once it got to London or once it went to Broadway. It kept evolving and evolving as they put it together. And they were lucky that they were at the Royal Shakespeare Company, because the Royal Shakespeare Company allowed them to continue to work in a rehearsal process over and over again and refine and refine and refine, with the notion that they were going to move it to the West End. But at the same time that was happening, the backers of the Royal Shakespeare Company were upset, because they said, why are you doing a musical? We're the Royal Shakespeare Company. You have no business doing a commercial musical at the RSC. We should be doing Shakespeare, classic plays, and not this. What is the show that you're trying to develop here? And so when we closed the show on Broadway, 16 years after it had originally bowed and opened, the Les Miserables had realized over $100 million in royalties for the Royal Shakespeare Company. And you need not say any more.
No.
It funded them for years and years to continue to develop. So it's a wonderful success story from that standpoint.
Okay, we have 5 minutes and then we reconnect.
Uh-huh.
Mary Christine te encontró junto a Audrey McDonald protagonizando el mito griego de Medea, pero en New Orleans. Hoy Hadestown retoma un poco ese concepto que ustedes innovaron en el musical de la Chiusa. Y nuevamente ligado a una argentina, Graciela Daniel. ¿Cómo fue trabajar esta tragedia griega?
So Gaston says that today Hadestown takes a little bit of the concept that you guys innovated in the musical of La Chiusa, and once again you were related to an Argentinian, which is the choreographer Graciela. How was it like to work in a Greek trash?
She's a wonderful person and extremely gifted and talented. We're going to run out of time with a little bit of time that is left. And I'm just wondering, should we stop and wait for the second 40 minutes before I get into this? Because we're going to be interrupted.
Okay.
And let me do this. Let me go back to Kiss of the Spider Woman. Let me show you here. This was a picture, if I can get clear, from London. Myself, Placido Domingo, Cheetah, Valentino, the designer,
yes,
Brent Carver. These are the wonderful things as well. You say, with these productions that happen, you meet so many people. They come and they see you, and it's such the same thing with doing Phantom as well. You have these wonderful opportunities. And that, again, because of doing these monumental productions, be they on Broadway, be they in London, be they Toronto, or be they Las Vegas or Los Angeles, or
you're a Tony winner.
And you're a Tony winner on top of it all. I mean, it is hard. You see behind, this is artwork from artists from around the globe and fans that would write. And some of these are the nomination plaques from different productions I have done, including in the center is the Tony Award nomination from Kiss of the Spider Woman.
In Argentina, in Buenos Aires, Hal Prince direct the Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Oh, he did?
Yes, the day after that was El Día Después. Será el día después, será el día después, en el día después. The day after that in Spanish.
Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. May I ask you a question? I sent you a lot of artwork. Are you going to use those pictures, the photographs too, in your presentation?
Of course. To promotion the classes and para promocionar las clases y demás. Voy a utilizarlo y para la página. Decirle.
Yep, for the page.
So yes, the reason I'm asking is because also, I mean, I'll move my computer for a second here. When we talk about Marie Christine. See, there is...
Oh, Mary Christine.
Can you see? I don't know if you can see clear. Great
score, great lyrics.
Yes. Difficult score. Very difficult to sing. It's very complicated music. You know, not unlike I just did Into the Woods at the Hollywood Bowl. And that music too, Sondheim, very complicated, very complicated. So, I mean, listen, any of the great composers too, these you know, they are difficult to sing. I will tell you this about these types of roads, and whether it is Che in Evita, or it is the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, or it is Dante Keys in Marie Christine. Those kinds of roles, you don't just do the role. You don't just go into the theater and portray the role. You have to live the role. And what I mean by that is you have to live a lifestyle that allows you to do the show over and over and over. I say it's not like the sprinter in the Olympics. It's the marathon runner. You are running the marathon and you are training for the marathon, and you do it over and over for miles and miles and miles. Phantom in Las Vegas, for me, the run of Evita was 2.5 years I was in it. Les Miserables, 2.5 years, and I left in the middle of it. It was 10 months as Grantaire, then took over Javert, did Javert for another 1.5 years at least, left to do 2 films. While I was doing it, they let me go, come back to do 2 films. I did Crocodile Dundee 2, and I did a film called Spellbinder, a horror film with Kelly Preston and Tim Daly. And so left and then came back. Les Miserables was 1.5 years as well. Phantom was 6.5 years, over 2,400 performances. And so that, you talk about running the marathon, that was a marathon, long time. Wow. But I was doing it when from 2006 to 2012, the reason I stayed that long was because that's when we had global recession. And I had a wonderful job that was continuing on and on and on. When people were going into foreclosures, losing their homes, you know, it was a very difficult time. And I was blessed to have this wonderful job in this $40 million production. So I had gotten some other offers to do a musical and a play off Broadway. And I said no, because I would have been making 1/10, if not less, of the salary that I was making being the Phantom, you know? So I stayed. So sometimes you never know. You have to, you know, same thing. Kiss was Toronto 6 months, London for 6 months, then Broadway, which was another, it was a just shy of 2.5 years, as I say, as well. And, you know, there's the American saying, the phrase, hindsight is 20/20. You look back and go, I should have done this. I should have done that. We all do that, make different decisions, you know, and perhaps some of these shows, specifically, I would say, you know, I mean, all of them, I was going to say maybe Evita or maybe Phantom or maybe Kiss stayed longer or left and come back. But you make career decisions sometimes, or because of family, you have a family, you make different decisions and you walk the path that you walk.
Anthony, escuchándote, veo que sos un gran maestro, cómo preparás los roles y demás. Sé que das clases, que sos parte del programa Broadway Mentors, y quiero que nos cuentes cómo es para tomar clases contigo. Hay muchos fans de Latinoamérica y de España y que quisieran tener un maestro en línea como Anthony Crivello.
So before we talk about Broadway mentors, let me
Okay.
say a little more about Marie Christine.
Oh, yes, of course.
You know, Graciela is working with her. Her approach is gentle. She gives you much freedom to work and to explore. You know, working opposite Audra McDonald in that case, Mary Testa, there was a lot of wonderful actors, Michael McCormick, you know, lots of wonderful character actors and the work that was done, all good, wonderful performances as well. It was, and then you're performing at Lincoln Center too, as well, and doing Broadway at the Lincoln Center. I am not so crazy. The Vivian Beaumont Theater that we were in is an open 3/4 round, as they call it. So the audience is, you're exposed to the audience in a huge half circle. I prefer proscenium. I like the proscenium and being the audience being in front of me. I think that concept of the 3/4 is, especially a big musical like that, is very difficult because you have to, because of the sight lines, you're constantly adjusting your blocking. And if you have to constantly be moving so that you're not blocking the audience or showing the audience your back. And so even from a staging standpoint with Graciela, because obviously she did the direction and the music, it was difficult to put it together as far as the movement and all of that. And it, you know, that particular story, because it is Medea, you know, it's a difficult story to translate and have an audience in a musical form fully appreciate it. But it's a show that it is a little bit that's like Kiss of the Spider Woman too. You know, the runs were not as long as a Les Miserables or a Phantom, but there are fans of those shows that to this day, as you know, you can go online and you can see bootleg footage of the shows. You know, it's unfortunate that because of budget, that some of these shows, they're videotaped for the Lincoln Center archives, but they're not out there for the public to see. So the vast majority of the public don't get to see the original productions and those wonderful performances and concepts. And it's a shame in a way, because even for the Lincoln Center, they have one camera that's in the back of the theater shooting it. You're not getting the full experience of coming in close sometimes, or even again, and even it's one of the things now that is so tragic about the COVID virus. You know, it is live performance. It is this virus, this pandemic is causing a great problem. You know, not only for sports, but live performance for theater. You know, it is going to take time before people can safely come back into a theater and see shows because of the pandemic. It's just terrible.
Yes, it's terrible. Now, Broadway mentors.
Broadway mentors. We're, you know, the whole notion of which has always been there. People have for years had said to me, you know, that, you know, Anthony, Antonio, you should be teaching. You should teach. And this Broadway mentors, you can see the quality of the teachers, the pedigree of the teachers, the awards that the teachers involved with this program have. It's tremendous people. And so, you know, as you know, and I'm sure you posted, BroadwayMentorsProgram.com. The great thing, I said, the terrible thing about the pandemic is that it has stopped live performance. The wonderful thing about the pandemic is that technology like Zoom and all of these broad-based video productions and meetings, that technology is now emerged. And so it has allowed programs like Broadway Mentors to reach to a much broader audience, not only in the United States and America, but around the globe. And that is slowly what's happening. And it allows performers to study with teachers that have Broadway pedigree, that have Tony Awards, that have Tony nominations, have Emmy Awards, casting directors, film and television directors, to study with them individually, one-on-one, online, or to take workshops, which I'm going to do 3 workshops: Les Miserables, Phantom of the Opera, and Heathers, that I also did off-Broadway, Heathers the musical. So and we're going to do, you know, Donna McKechnie, who is on the faculty as well, is going to do a chorus line, a workshop for a chorus line, and these different artists are going to do shows that they have direct relationships to as well. So it's just, again, it's a wonderful platform to help students, not only young, but older, who want to work on material, work on audition skills, work on individual parts of the show, a number or whatever, maybe for performance, to audition for the production, or to put even into a cabaret act as well, that you can work with people who have a direct connection to the material. It's like, and as I said, BroadwayMentorsProgram.com. You can go there, find out information, and sign up. It's a wonderful platform, and, you know, like I said, with a great group of teachers as well.
Ok, Anthony, quiero agradecerte de todo corazón. Realmente yo crecí escuchando estos musicales de Broadway y escuchándote, escuchando los discos, y para mí ha sido de gran inspiración. Y gracias por haberme dado esta entrevista y haber sido tan generoso.
Very much, Anthony. Gaston says that he's a huge fan of you. He grew up listening to your Broadway recording cast, so it's a dream come true. Thank you very much.
Well, I say that, and you know, as well, there is also, for the fans, another musical that I did in Toronto, Jane Eyre, that you could go, Jane Eyre, the Toronto cast, and you could find it online and listen to it for free. And I know Gaston he reached out to me years ago, and because of Facebook and some other things, and so we have been in a little bit of contact. This is the first time now, because of doing this in Argentina, to have this interview. I'm honored that you reached out to me as well. And I say to all of my dear friends, and, you know, in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, in South America, in the Spanish, Hispanic community, I know that you have many, many fans, and I thank you for your graciousness and for inviting me to come on. And I send my best wishes to every one of them as well.
Thank you very much. Best wishes, and stay safe.
Yes, thank you so much, Gaston. And Juan, thank you so much for translating. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. God bless you all. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.